The morning sun cast long shadows across the alien research facility as Commander Jake Morrison crouched behind a cluster of crystalline formations. His weathered hands gripped his modified rifle, eyes scanning the horizon through his tactical scope. 23 years as a Navy SEAL had taught him to trust his instincts, and right now, every instinct screamed danger. The Zelhari had been watching him for 3 days. Jake had arrived on Kepler 442b as part of a joint human-alien archaeological expedition, supposedly studying ancient ruins that predated both civilizations. The official mission briefing painted a picture of cooperation and shared discovery. But Jake knew better than to trust official briefings completely. The planet's purple sky shimmered with an otherworldly beauty that still caught him off guard after 2 weeks planetside. Twin moons hung visible even in daylight, casting strange double shadows across the rocky terrain. The air tasted metallic, requiring the breathing apparatus that all humans wore on this world. Through his earpiece, Jake heard Dr. Sarah Chun's voice crackling with static. "Jake, the energy readings from Sector 7 are off the charts. Whatever the ancients built here, it's still active. Copy that, Doc. Stay close to the base camp. Something doesn't feel right out here." Jake had noticed the subtle changes 3 days ago. The Zelhari soldiers assigned as security had begun positioning themselves differently. Their patrol routes had shifted to create overlapping fields of fire around the human sections of the camp. Their conversations, which Jake understood thanks to his neural translator, had taken on a different tone. The Zelhari were a proud warrior race, standing nearly 8 feet tall with muscular builds that reminded Jake of ancient Earth predators. Their gray skin was covered in natural armor plating, and their forearms made them formidable opponents in close combat. They had been among the first alien species to make contact with humanity 50 years ago, and relations had remained cautiously neutral until now. Jake's scope caught movement on the ridge above. 6 Zelhari soldiers in full combat gear were advancing toward his position using standard pincer tactics. Their plasma rifles gleamed in the alien sunlight, and their movements showed the discipline of experienced warriors, but they had made one critical mistake. They assumed Jake was just another soft human scientist. "Control, this is Morrison. I have eyes on 6 hostiles moving to my position. Requesting immediate extraction." Static filled his earpiece before a Zelhari voice responded in accented English. "Commander Morrison, please remain calm. There has been a change in mission parameters." Jake's blood ran cold. The Zelhari had taken control of communications. "Doc, if you can hear this, execute Protocol 7, now." Protocol 7 was their emergency contingency. Sarah would destroy all sensitive research data and activate the emergency beacon that would signal Earth Fleet Command. But the nearest human ships were 3 days away. Jake was on his own. The first Zelhari soldier crested the ridge, his plasma rifle scanning left and right. Jake remained motionless, his breathing controlled and steady. The alien's 4 eyes swept the area, thermal sensors no doubt tracking heat signatures. But Jake's environmental suit was designed by human military engineers who understood the importance of stealth. The soldier moved past Jake's position without detecting him. Jake waited until all 6 soldiers had entered the valley below before making his move. Years of training in jungle warfare, urban combat, and hostile environments had taught him that patience was often the difference between life and death. The second mistake the Zelhari made was underestimating human adaptability. Jake moved like a shadow, using the rocky terrain and alien vegetation as cover. His modified rifle was a marvel of human engineering, combining traditional ballistic ammunition with energy-based targeting systems. Unlike the flashy plasma weapons favored by most alien species, human weapons prioritized reliability and stopping power. The third mistake was revealing their numbers too early. Through his scope, Jake counted 12 more Zelhari soldiers positioned around the valley. They had set up what they believed was an inescapable trap. Crossfire positions covered every exit route, and their heavy weapons could level the entire area if needed, but they hadn't accounted for human. 3-dimensional thinking began his ascent up a sheer cliff face that the Zelhari had dismissed as impassable. His enhanced grip gloves found purchase on the alien rock, and his training in mountain warfare guided each movement. The gravity on this world was lighter than Earth's, making the climb easier than it would have been at home. Halfway up the cliff, Jake paused to assess the situation below. The Zelhari soldiers were growing restless, their formation beginning to tighten as they searched for their missing target. Their leader, distinguished by additional armor plating and command insignia, was barking orders in their guttural language. Target has evaded initial perimeter. Expand search pattern. Remember, capture if possible, eliminate if necessary. Jake smiled grimly. They still thought they were hunting prey. They were about to learn they had cornered a predator. From his elevated position, Jake had perfect sight lines to 12 of the 18 Zelhari soldiers. His rifle's smart targeting system automatically calculated wind resistance, gravity differential, and target movement patterns. Human weapons technology had advanced significantly since first contact, incorporating lessons learned from studying alien equipment while maintaining the brutal efficiency that had made humans dominant on Earth. Jake's first shot took out the Zelhari leader with surgical precision. The ballistic round, designed to penetrate alien armor, dropped the 8-foot warrior instantly. The remaining soldiers immediately began searching for the shooter, but their scanning patterns were designed for ground-level threats. The fourth mistake was assuming humans fought like other species. Jake's second and third shots eliminated 2 soldiers manning heavy weapons positions. His movements between shots were fluid and calculated, changing position after each engagement to avoid counterfire. The Zelhari were beginning to panic, their tactical communications becoming increasingly frantic. Where is he? Scanners show no heat signature. Multiple casualties from elevated position. Request orbital support immediately. Jake's earpiece crackled with intercepted Zelhari transmissions. Orbital support meant their ships in space were preparing to intervene. He had perhaps 10 minutes before the situation escalated, beyond his control, time to accelerate the timeline. Jake descended the cliff face using a controlled rappel, moving faster than the Zelhari thought possible. He landed behind their defensive line, inside their perimeter where their own crossfire patterns worked against them. The remaining soldiers turned to face this new threat, but Jake was already moving. His close-quarters combat training kicked in as he engaged multiple enemies simultaneously. The Zelhari were powerful and well-armored, but they fought like individuals rather than a coordinated unit. Jake fought like a human. Each movement served multiple purposes. A strike that disabled one enemy would simultaneously position him for an attack on the next. He used their superior reach against them, moving inside their guard where their larger size became a disadvantage. His combat knife, forged from earth steel and enhanced with alien metal alloys, found gaps in armor that the Zelhari hadn't known existed. The fifth mistake was believing their technology made them invincible. Within 3 minutes, Jake had eliminated or disabled the remaining ground forces. The valley fell silent except for the groans of wounded Zelhari soldiers. Jake quickly gathered their weapons and communication equipment, his tactical mind already formulating the next phase of his plan. This is Battle Cruiser Korthmer to ground forces. Report your status immediately. Jake smiled as he activated the captured communications array. Time for the Zelhari to learn why humans had earned a reputation across the galaxy as the most dangerous species ever encountered. Battle Cruiser Korthmer, this is Commander Morrison. Your ground forces have been neutralized. I suggest you reconsider your current course of action. Silence filled the communication channel for several seconds before a different voice responded. The tone carried authority and barely controlled rage. Human Commander, you have interfered with a legitimate Zelhari operation. Surrender immediately, or we will be forced to take more direct action. Jake looked up at the purple sky where he knew the Zelhari fleet waited in orbit. His training had prepared him for many scenarios, but facing an entire alien fleet single-handedly wasn't covered in any manual. Good thing humans had always specialized in improvisation. Direct action? Jake's voice carried the calm confidence that had made him one of the most decorated SEALs in human history. You mean like sending 18 soldiers to eliminate one human? How did that work out for you? The communication channel exploded with angry Zelhari voices as multiple commanders began shouting simultaneously. Jake used the chaos to access their tactical databases through the captured equipment. Human cyber warfare specialists had long ago cracked most alien encryption protocols. What he found in their files made his blood run cold. The attack on him wasn't an isolated incident. The Zelhari had been systematically targeting human personnel across multiple worlds, apparently testing human responses and capabilities. They were gathering intelligence for something much larger. They thought they were stew. Admiral Thrakmer of the Zelhari Third Fleet stared at the tactical display with growing unease. The humans' casual dismissal of 18 elite warriors should have been impossible. Yet the biosignatures of his ground forces painted a clear picture: 17 dead, 1 critically wounded, from a single human. Admiral, the human has accessed our tactical networks. He's downloading classified operation files, reported his communications officer, her forearms dancing across holographic controls. Thrakmer's armored hide bristled with anger. The Zelhari had spent months planning this operation, carefully studying human behavior patterns and response protocols. Their intelligence indicated that humans, while clever tool users, lacked the physical prowess and warrior instinct of true apex predators. The data had been wrong. Cut all network connections immediately. Deploy atmospheric fighters to his position. I want that human captured alive for interrogation. The view screen shifted to show the planet's surface where Jake Morrison moved through the alien landscape like a force of nature. Thrakmer watched in fascination as the human systematically destroyed 3 more Zelhari ground positions that had been established as backup. Support. How had their intelligence been so catastrophically incorrect? On the planet's surface, Jake crouched inside a captured Zelhari bunker, his fingers flying over alien control systems with practiced efficiency. Human xenotechnology specialists had spent decades reverse engineering captured alien equipment, and Jake's neural implants contained updated interface protocols for most major species. Technology. The Zelhari Tactical Database revealed the scope of their operation. Operation Deathworld Assessment was a galaxy-spanning intelligence gathering mission designed to evaluate whether humans truly deserve their growing reputation as soldiers. The Zelhari High Command believed the stories of human military prowess were exaggerated propaganda. They had chosen Jake as a test subject because his service record represented what they considered a typical human warrior. If they could easily eliminate a decorated Navy SEAL, they reasoned, then humanity posed no real threat to their expansion plans. The irony wasn't lost on Jake. They had picked him specifically because he was average by human military standards. They had no idea what average meant for a species that had evolved on a death world. Jake activated the bunker's communication array and transmitted on broad spectrum frequencies that he knew would reach both Zelhari and human receivers. This is Commander Jake Morrison, United Earth Navy, to all Zelhari forces in this system. You have 60 seconds to withdraw from Kepler 442b before I demonstrate why humans are classified as a Class 5 extinction risk by the Galactic Threat Assessment Council. Admiral Thrakmer's communications officer looked up in confusion. Sir, there is no Galactic Threat Assessment Council. That organization doesn't exist. Thrakmer's eyes narrowed as understanding dawned. The human was bluffing, but the confidence in his voice suggested otherwise. Scan for any additional human forces in the system. Full spectrum analysis. Sir, scans confirm only one human life sign on the planet's surface. The archaeological team ship departed 3 days ago according to our monitoring logs. Jake smiled as he monitored Zelhari communications through their own equipment. They still didn't understand what they were facing. Humans had learned long ago that psychological warfare could be more effective than conventional weapons. His neural implants chimed with an incoming priority. Transmission from Earth Fleet Command. The emergency beacon had worked perfectly. Morrison, this is Admiral Rebecca Hayes aboard the EFS Indomitable. We received your emergency transmission and are en route at maximum velocity. Estimated arrival in 62 hours. Can you maintain position? Jake's smile widened. Admiral Hayes commanded the 5th Human Expeditionary Fleet, including 3 Dreadnought-class warships and support vessels that carried enough firepower to sterilize a small planet. But more importantly, her fleet included the newest addition to Earth's military arsenal. Admiral, I can maintain position indefinitely, but you might want to make this a teaching moment for our Zelhari friends. They seem to have some misconceptions about human capabilities. Understood, Commander. Try not to start an interstellar war before we arrive. Jake disconnected the transmission and turned his attention back to the immediate threat. 6 Zelhari atmospheric fighters screamed through the purple sky toward his position. Their plasma cannons already charging for attack runs, most species would consider this an impossible situation. 1 ground-based soldier against 6 heavily armed aircraft was a scenario with only one logical outcome, but humans had never been particularly logical. Jake accessed the bunker's defensive systems, quickly identifying the installation's hidden weapon emplacements. The Zelhari had built this facility as a forward operating base, complete with anti-aircraft batteries and energy shields. They had assumed their own forces would control it. Another mistake in a growing list of tactical errors. The first fighter began its attack run, plasma bolts scorching the ground where Jake had been moments before. But Jake was no longer in the bunker. He had used the base's internal transport system to relocate to a secondary position while simultaneously bringing the defensive grid online. The Zelhari fighters suddenly found themselves facing their own automated defense network. Anti-aircraft batteries emerged from concealed positions and began tracking the incoming fighters with mathematical precision. The pilots, trained to deal with enemy resistance, were completely unprepared to fight their own technology. 3 fighters were destroyed in the opening salvo. The remaining pilots attempted to use override codes to disable the defensive grid, but Jake had already locked them out of the system using human cyber warfare techniques. Admiral Thrakmer watched in growing horror as his fighters fell from the sky. How is this possible? Those are our own weapons. Sir, the human appears to have gained complete control of Installation 7's systems. He's using our own defenses against us. Thrakmer's tactical officer, a veteran of 12 campaigns, looked up from his displays with an expression of deep concern. Admiral, I recommend we withdraw from this system immediately. This human is displaying capabilities far beyond anything in our intelligence reports. Negative. Deploy ground reinforcements from the 2nd and 3rd battalions. I want overwhelming force brought to bear on this situation. Sir, with respect, the 2nd and 3rd battalions total over 300 elite warriors. Are you certain we need that level of force for a single human? Thrakmer studied the tactical display showing the wreckage of his fighters and the silent bunker where Jake Morrison waited. I'm beginning to think 300 might not be enough. Jake monitored the Zelhari fleet movements through captured sensors. True to form, they were responding to his actions with escalating force rather than tactical thinking. It was a common mistake among species that had achieved dominance through superior technology rather than adaptive strategy. Humans had learned warfare in the most hostile environment imaginable, Earth itself. Every predator on their homeworld had been bigger, stronger, or more naturally armed than primitive humans. Survival required innovation, adaptation, and the ability to use any available resource as a weapon. The Zelhari were about to receive a comprehensive education in Deathworld tactics. Jake activated the installation's manufacturing systems, using his neural implants to interface directly with the alien technology. Human engineers had long ago developed protocols for reprogramming alien fabrication units, turning them into weapons production facilities. Within 30 minutes, Jake had produced a small arsenal of improvised explosives, modified energy weapons, and deployment drones using nothing but standard Zelhari industrial equipment. The incoming Zelhari reinforcements would find a very different battlefield than they Expected, Jake's neural implants alerted him to new developments in orbit. The Zelhari fleet was repositioning for orbital bombardment, preparing to level the entire installation. Rather than risk more ground casualties. Perfect. Jake accessed the installation's communication array and opened a channel to Admiral Thrakmer's flagship. Admiral, this is Commander Morrison. I understand you're considering orbital bombardment. Before you do that, you might want to know what I discovered in your tactical database. Thrakmer's voice crackled with barely controlled rage. Human, you have killed dozens of my warriors and compromised a classified military installation. Whatever games you're playing in now? No games, Admiral. Just sharing information. Did you know that your Operation Death World Assessment has been monitoring 17 different human worlds? That's quite an intelligence operation you have running. The communication channel fell silent. Jake could almost hear the calculations running through Thrakmer's mind. You see? Admiral, when I transmitted that data to Earth Fleet Command, I also included the locations and timetables for all your other operations. Right about now, human fleets are moving to intercept Zelhari forces at every target location. Jake paused, allowing the implications to sink in. Oh, and about that orbital bombardment you're planning? You might want to reconsider. I'm currently sitting in your installation's reactor control room. If you fire on this position, you'll trigger a cascade failure that will turn this entire continent into a radioactive wasteland. You're bluffing. Admiral Rebecca Hayes stood on the bridge of the EFS Indomitable, watching the tactical display with the practiced eye of someone who had commanded fleets in 3 major conflicts. The Zelhari formation was textbook defensive positioning, exactly what their military academies would teach when facing superior numbers. Unfortunately for them, humans had stopped fighting by textbook centuries ago. Admiral, we have target locks on all Zelhari vessels, reported her weapons officer. Their shields are raised, but they haven't powered weapons systems. Maintain targeting solutions, but hold fire. Commander Morrison orchestrated this beautifully. Let's see how he wants to finish it. On the planet's surface, Jake studied the orbital situation through the installation's sensor array. The human fleet had arrived ahead of schedule thanks to Admiral Hayes' decision to use experimental jump drive technology. The risks were enormous, but humans had never been afraid of calculated risks when their people were threatened. Admiral Thrakmer, Jake's voice carried across communication channels to both fleets. I want you to understand what just happened here. You attacked a single human thinking you were conducting a simple elimination operation. Instead, you triggered a response from 47 of humanity's most advanced warships. Admiral Thrakmer remained silent, but Jake could see through intercepted communications that panic was spreading through the Zelhari fleet. Their ships were powerful by galactic standards, but they were completely outnumbered and outgunned. You see, Admiral, that's the difference between humans and other species. When you attack one of us, you attack all of us. We don't abandon our people. We don't calculate acceptable losses. We come for them. Jake activated the installation's holographic display system, projecting a 3-dimensional map of the entire Kepler 442 system. Red indicators showed the positions of all Zelhari vessels, while blue indicators represented the human fleet. But the real lesson isn't about numbers, Admiral. It's about thinking. The display shifted, showing tactical projections that made Admiral Thrakmer's blood run cold. The human fleet wasn't just surrounding them, they had positioned themselves to control every possible escape route, every strategic advantage, every orbital mechanics calculation that might allow retreat. Your fleet commanders are probably running calculations right now, looking for weaknesses in our formation. They won't find any, because we didn't form up to fight you. We formed up to capture you. Admiral Hayes' voice joined the communication channel. Admiral Thrakmer, this is Admiral Hayes, 5th Human Expeditionary Fleet. Commander Morrison has briefed me on your Operation Death World Assessment. I must say, your intelligence gathering was remarkably thorough. What humans failed to mention in their communications with your species, Admiral Hayes continued, is that we've been conducting our own assessment. We call it Operation Guardian Angel. Jake smiled as he watched Zelhari communication channels explode with frantic cross-chatter. Guardian Angel had been humanity's most classified military program, a network of stealth observation posts and rapid response fleets positioned throughout the galaxy. For the past 18 months, we've been monitoring every major fleet movement by every spacefaring species. We know about your expansion plans, your resource surveys, and your military exercises. Most importantly, we know about your assessment of human capabilities. Admiral Thrakmer found his voice, though it carried none of its earlier confidence. Admiral Hayes, this was a limited intelligence operation. There was no intent to threaten human territories. Admiral, Jake interjected, you just spent the last 6 hours trying to eliminate me and calling an orbital bombardment on a planet with human civilians. Your intentions seem pretty clear. The tactical display updated again, showing additional signatures throughout the star system. Admiral Thrakmer's tactical officer looked up with an expression of pure horror. Sir, additional contacts throughout the system. Human stealth vessels are decloaking everywhere. Jake's voice carried grim satisfaction. Those are Guardian Angel platforms, Admiral. They've been watching your every move since you entered this system 3 weeks ago. We knew about your operation before you even deployed ground forces. Admiral Thrakmer stared at the display showing over 100 human vessels throughout the system, stealth ships, monitoring platforms and automated defense stations that had been invisible until now. The Zelhari fleet hadn't been conducting a secret operation at all. They had been performing for an audience. The question now, Admiral Hayes continued, is what we do with you. Commander Morrison has provided compelling evidence that your operation constitutes an act of war against human-claimed territory. However, Jake added, his voice taking on a different tone, humans aren't interested in starting unnecessary conflicts. We prefer to solve problems efficiently. Admiral Thrakmer seized on this apparent opening. Commander Morrison, Admiral Hayes, the Zelhari Empire is prepared to negotiate a resolution to this misunderstanding. Misunderstanding? Jake's voice hardened. Admiral, you sent 80 elite soldiers to murder me. You took control of our communications. You planned orbital bombardment. Which part of that was misunderstood? The communication channel fell silent except for the background hum of ship systems. When Jake spoke again, his voice carried the authority of someone who had just single-handedly defeated an alien military operation. Here's what's going to happen, Admiral. You're going to order all Zelhari forces to stand down immediately. You're going to provide complete intelligence files on Operation Deathworld assessment to human authorities. You're going to recall all Zelhari forces from human space permanently. And in exchange, Admiral Hayes added, you get to live? Admiral Thrakmer studied his tactical displays, looking for any option that didn't end with the complete destruction of his fleet. Human weapons technology was advanced, but more importantly, their tactical coordination was flawless. Every human ship was positioned to support multiple others, creating overlapping fields of fire that eliminated any possibility of successful combat. Admiral Hayes, the terms you propose would require authorization from Zelhari High Command. I don't have authority to agree to territorial withdrawals. Jake's laughter echoed through the communication channels. Admiral, you're not in a position to negotiate. You're in a position to surrender. There's a difference. Let me make this clearer for you, Admiral Hayes continued. We've detected 17 other Zelhari operations currently targeting human worlds. As we speak, those forces are discovering that humans take a very dim view of sneak attacks on our people. The tactical display shifted again, showing real-time battle reports from across the galaxy. 17 different Zelhari military operations were being systematically dismantled by human forces that had apparently materialized from nowhere. How? Admiral Thrakmer whispered. Jake's voice carried pride and grim satisfaction. Because humans don't fight fair, Admiral. We fight to win. When you started your assessment operation, we started ours. Every move you made was monitored, analyzed, and countered before you even knew we were watching. Admiral Thrakmer, Admiral Hayes' voice took on the tone of a teacher addressing a slow student. Your species made a fundamental error in your assessment. You assumed humans would react to threats the way other species do, defensively, reactively, with concern for proportional response. But humans evolved on a planet where everything was trying to kill us, Jake added. We learned that the best defense is overwhelming offense. When something threatens us, we don't just neutralize the threat. We eliminate the source of the threat permanently. Admiral Frakmer stared at the tactical displays showing the complete destruction of every Zelhari military operation throughout human space. 18 months of planning, hundreds of vessels, thousands of elite warriors, all eliminated in less than 12 hours. What do you want? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. We want you to understand something very important, Jake replied. Humans are not just another species you can study and categorize. We're not just clever apes with advanced technology. We're apex predators who learn to hunt in the most dangerous environment the galaxy has ever produced. Every other species developed space travel to escape their limitations, Admiral Hayes continued. Humans developed space travel to find new challenges. Admiral Thrakmer looked around his bridge at his officers, all of whom were staring at the tactical displays with expressions of defeat. His communications officer had gone completely silent. His weapons officer had powered down all combat systems, without being ordered to do so. For the first time in Zelhari history, an entire fleet was facing an enemy they couldn't fight, couldn't outrun, and couldn't outsmart. Admiral Hayes, Thrakmer's voice cracked slightly. On behalf of the Zelhari Third Fleet, I formally request terms of surrender. The words felt like poison in his mouth. But the alternative was the complete annihilation of every ship under his command. Admiral Thrakmer, Admiral Hayes replied with professional courtesy, surrender is accepted. Power down all weapon systems and prepare for boarding parties. You and your crew will be treated according to galactic warfare conventions. However, Jake's voice cut through the communication channel one final time. Before we conclude this operation, I want every Zelhari warrior in.